Hello, in this video you are going to learn how we can create a perspective view using a floor plan here of a bathroom. The first thing that we would have to do obviously would be to find out the best point of view to get this rendering done. The perspective is quite small, so we would just have to be careful how we place our lines. If we stand over here and look this way, we might not see the shower. We will probably have to close the door and do the rendering maybe from this corner looking this way. So let's get ourselves started. Alright, so what we would have to do first is figure out our perspective. If I'm standing right where I said on that corner, I would probably have to start with my walls and maybe something like this over here. These would be the walls and the shower stall would be placed somewhere here. Let's do the other wall somewhere here. But that wouldn't really show us the bathroom. I mean the toilet. We would have a window over here. We don't have to settle too soon if we don't love the perspective view that we are working with. The counter would be placed somewhere here. And the shower stall would be somewhere in this location. Do we love it or not? We don't have to settle too soon. If we move more towards this way, we will see less of the sink over here, but we will see more of the toilet there, which now we don't see. And we don't see the door, obviously, that would be placed here because it is behind us. So I might actually scratch this and start all over again. Alright, so we might actually then consider the back wall as our starting point. Maybe somewhere like this. I have a window which is over here, situated in the center. Roughly here. And now maybe what I can do is, if I situate my horizon line here, one vanishing point could be placed there. I can do maybe my bathroom like this, with the intention that I would still be able to show the toilet and the door that we have. These lines that I'm drawing would be the door that we would see on our right. So I am liking this better. Let's mark on the floor where the profile of our sink. It would be somewhere here. This is not a one-point perspective. This is still a two-point perspective because this back wall has perspective to it. You guys see top and bottom. We still see where the lines go to the vanishing point on the left. But that falls outside our page size. But certainly the vanishing point on the right falls inside our drawing. And this is what I wanted to mention, that we have the shower stall that kind of covers a big portion of our design. And we have to be good with it. We have to understand that that's what it's going to be. Part of it will be blocked. If we are not okay with it, then we would have to start all over again and find a different perspective. Alright, so if we are okay with it, then obviously all this would be erased because it would not be seen, right? And now we would have to find our perspective for the shower stall, for the shower enclosure here, somewhere like this. So you see, we see very little of the sink. On the other hand, this allows us to really get a sense of the toilet over here, and we said that was important. We wanted to see it. So in order to get the toilet drawn correctly, what I would do first is draw a rectangle and then add extra details to it. So first I would do just an L-shaped structure and then work on the extra details later. We have the shower enclosure doing something like this, and then I'm not sure yet what type of bar we have to open it, but let's assume that this would be made of glass and that we can see part of the inside through the glass. Alright, so we'll have to render this in with some blue tone. So this edge over here is this corner right there that I have marked on the floor plan. Alright, so once we have the basic layout, we can start adding more detail to it. Alright, so now let's get the toilet drawn. This is the water reservoir. I'm going to draw a generic one but with a modern twist to it, and then we can go ahead later and modify it according to the exact specifications that we have. But maybe at least we got the main shape going. The lid kind of droops a little bit. Let's make it straighter over here, and this line goes this way. We barely see the edge because of the perspective that we have. It needs to go to that vanishing point right here. Alright, so we got the main perspective lines there. Alright, it feels that we might have to open it up a little bit more so that people would sit there comfortably. Then obviously we would have to change this design according to the exact shape that we have on the model and everything else, but at least, you know, we got it, the main lines figured out. Now let's define a bit more our wall over here, our window. Alright, maybe something like this will work. The counter that we can barely see, we can add a toe kick for sure, just to define it more and then erase a few lines and redraw them to give it a sense of we need to show more detail. Alright, so let's do something like that. I'm not sure how many drawers we would have there. So this would be, for example, our bathroom design, right? So we have a few main lines that get the space drawn. The door, we thought it was important to show it too. So now we can start adding some detail to it, right? Alright, so let's get something like that. Not sure what type of door we want, but let's get a few lines drawn on the door. Also to help us with perspective, something like this. The thickness of the door frame, it's important, it's so close to the viewer that we really need to show it. When we render bathrooms, we certainly have to play well with our perspective because they are usually quite small bathrooms, and we don't have a lot of room to really make grand perspectives. We have to be very careful with how we draw our lines. And then the next thing, if this is our vanishing point right there, we would have to add some lines from the floor on the floor to show some sort of a floor grid. Something like this. And now it becomes even more obvious that this is a 2-point perspective. This is not a 1-point perspective because we have a floor grid. How about the ceiling? What are we going to do there? What kind of lighting do we have? If you, for example, wanted to have some recessed lights, we can certainly include them in our drawing as ellipses. And I drew these lines to make sure that they were lining up correctly. Let's draw a baseboard here. And now we would be ready to add some color. Do we want to add Wainscott Panel and then start designing? Why not, right? So let's get something going on here. A chair railing over there, wainscot panels over here. Let's suggest a few lines to indicate them. And in the foreground, obviously, the panel would be more visible, and that gives us the opportunity to exaggerate perspective right there on the front. Let's extend this line for our perspective. And now we would be ready to add some color. Alright, as always, you want to test first your markers on the side just to see how they are doing. And then, with vertical lines, you can work with your markers to really get the rendering going. Vertical strokes, very important. You also want to, it's not the right color, you want to work with 2 shades of color to get lighter and darker tones. One wall should be lighter than the other, or one wall should be darker than the other, right? That would give us the necessary detail that we need, the necessary sense of perspective that we need. Alright, so we have something like that. Now let's add, whoops, I'm not sure about that. That's why it's important to test it on the side first. Let's add some wood tones. For example, I really want to have that wooden door there. Do I have any other wooden tones in the bathroom? Maybe the cabinet over here. How about the window? Do we have wood tones? Well, let's add some tones there. And then it's important as well to consider the ceiling. I'll do vertical lines on the ceiling so that it would not look as bright and white. Let's add as well some gray for the toilet. Now let's go into light blue and figure out, make it evident that we have glass panes over here. So a lot of blue, light blue, to make it clear that this is a glass enclosure. Talking about glass, let's add some tones there. What kind of floor do we want? Let's see. I'd rather go for a very dark, like a darker gray tone. If it is reflective, the floor, or has some sheen to it, you need to leave some white spots. That would be the reflection on the floor. Alright, so some of these tiles would be slightly darker just to make them more interesting visually. Let's add some more detail on this door. some detail on the wainscot panels. Alright, something like this. And we would be on our way. Okay, so hopefully you enjoyed this video, and now hopefully you will be interested in doing your own rendering, provided the knowledge that you gained after watching this video. The last thing that I would do would just be to emphasize slightly my shadows on some areas, just to make this space more three-dimensional. And we would be set.